Boys and girls, this is Graham and Sheila again, and I have another story for you. Today's story is called The Red Bicycle. I think all of us have wanted something really bad before. But Danny, he had gotten up this morning and he thought, I can't wait any longer. He went downstairs to the kitchen and he went to Mom and he said, Mom, please can't you and Dad buy me a new bicycle? Please, I need a bicycle so bad. All the other guys have a bicycle. Please, Mom. Mom, she stood there for a few minutes and she said, Danny, I'm sorry, but we don't have the money for a bicycle right now. Maybe one of these days. What? How about you see about getting a job? Maybe you could earn a bicycle. Dan, he thought about that and he said, Mom, I'm too young for a paper route. That's the only thing I know where boys can earn money. I don't know what else to do. And Mom said, Well, you know what? Maybe I can help you find some place where you could get a job. We'll see, okay? I said, But I want a bicycle. And she turned around to him and she said, Danny, God will provide. Danny, he sighed great big and he kind of muttered to himself, I have been praying, but it seems like that God's taking care of all the other boys' needs for a bicycle and not mine. Well, he went out and he plopped himself down on the front porch on the swing and he started swinging back and forth, back and forth. But every time he looked up, he saw another boy going by on a bicycle, and it just made him more and more sad. Finally, he jumped up and he said, I'm not going to sit here any longer. I'm going to go somewhere where I don't have to see boys on their bicycles. So he went through the yard, went out the gate, and walked along, and finally he saw an alley. And he thought, nobody rides their bicycles on an alley. So he started down the alley. And it was fall, and he was kicking the leaves as he went. It was something to do. Finally, he came to a little shed that was set right by the back of the alley. And right in front of it was a great big pile of leaves. And he thought, might be fun to kick the leaves from that big pile. So he got back and he picked up his leg and he kicked out. Well, he didn't think about the fact that the leaves were very wet because it was fall. And so they really didn't go very far. It wasn't like jumping in dry leaves. And his foot caught on something. So he bent over. He thought, well, I better find out what that is under there. So he pushed the leaves all aside and he reached down, and what he picked up was a woman's wallet, a purse. It was brown leather. And he thought, oh, somebody lost their purse. Maybe I could get a reward for it and earn some money. He picked it up and he unzipped the top of it and he looked inside and he started to count. There were four $5 bills. Let's see, 4 times 5, he thought. $20. $20. That's a lot of money. Then he looked some more. He looked in the other little pockets, and there was three $10 bills. That's another $30. That's $50 if you add it up together. And then Danny had a thought. In town, there was a bike shop called Smith's Bike Shop. And in the window, there was a bright red bicycle. It was beautiful. It had a horn. It had everything. It was just what any boy would want. And he thought, I have more than enough money. He had been by there earlier, and he had seen that there was a sign on it that it was on sale. And the big orange sign said $45. He had more than enough money to buy it. He thought, God's provided a bike for me. He was so excited that he stuck that wallet in his pocket and he went quickly down the street. He thought, I'm going to go buy that bicycle right now. Won't Mom be excited? I can even ride it home after I bought it. So then he started running because he had looked at his watch and he saw that it wasn't too long till the store would close, and he wanted to get there before it closed. So he started running. Well, as he was running, he heard the train whistle. He went, oh no, not a train. That'll keep me too long and the store will be closed. So he started to run. I can beat the train. Now, boys and girls, I'm going to stop right here. Don't ever try to beat the train. Too many boys and girls have gotten killed being run over by trains because they thought they could beat the train. But Danny wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about his bicycle. So he was chugging along as fast as he could go. But the train was, thankfully, faster than he was. And he had to stop and wait for it. Well, it was one of those big, long freight trains. You know, the ones with tons and tons of cars? Well, he used to always like to watch the trains, and he would count the cars, and it was a good pastime. But today he had a place to go. So he was impatient. He sat there, oh, come on, come on, come on, where's the caboose? Finally, he heard somebody, and he turned around, and there stood Jim, one of his friends from school. And Jim said, hi, Dan, what you doing? And Dan said, I'm waiting for this train. I'm going to go. And he thought, I am going to go buy a brand new bicycle at Smith's Bike Shop. And Jim looked at him and he said, I didn't know you'd saved up for a bicycle. Was it your birthday or something? Did you get birthday money? Dan said, no. Jim said, where did you get the money? Dan said, God provided. And so Jim didn't say anymore. Well, they were watching the train, and here they saw the caboose coming. And wouldn't you know it, they heard another train whistle. It was coming the other way. And of course, they had to wait. They waited for that train to go by. Sometimes God delays us. Well, let's see. Finally, the caboose for the second train came by, and there weren't any more whistles blowing. So over the train track they ran, and pretty soon they were in front of that window where the bicycle was. Danny ran over and he grabbed the doorknob, but the doorknob wouldn't turn. He ran up and he started pounding, pounding on that door, but there was nobody there. He thought, oh my, it must be too late. I'll have to wait till tomorrow to buy my bicycle. So he and Jim went over and they stood in front of the window and they examined that bicycle. Oh, it was a beauty. And then Dan reached in his pocket and he pulled out that wallet, that lady's brown leather wallet. And Jim said, hey, where did you get that? And Dan said, I found it. Jim said, where did you find it? I found it in an alley. When did you find it? Dan said, a little while ago before I came here. And he started to unzip it. And Jim could see all that money in it. And he said, did you even go look to see if somebody lost it? Dan kind of put his head down and he said, no, I looked inside it and there was no names, so I figured I wouldn't know who to give it to. Jim said, Danny, that would be stealing. You know, not to steal is one of God's commandments. You don't want to do that. Now, Danny, he hadn't thought of that. He'd never stolen anything in his life, and he didn't plan on stealing anything. What was he going to do? He said, but I don't know where to find the person that owns it. Jim said, come on, let's go down to the police department. Sometimes people call there or they leave notices saying they've lost something. Let's go check. And you know, the police have a policy. If they can't find who owns something, the person that brought it in gets to keep it. Let's go see. Well, all the way there, Dan was kind of sad. He thought he was going to get a new bicycle, but he didn't want to steal either. Well, they got to the police office and they went in and they stood by the counter, and the police officer that was there smiled down at him and said, what can I help you with, boys? And Dan pulled that wallet out of his pocket and he put it up there on the counter. And he said, I found this in an alley. There's no name in it, though. And the police officer said, you know, I think I remember somebody calling about a brown leather wallet. It's been several weeks ago. And so he went to his file and he started looking through it. And he said, yeah, here it is. Here's the report. He said, she'll sure be glad to get this back. Is the money still in it? Dan said, yes. And he was all sad. And the police officer said, hey, you guys, I have a good idea. Why don't you guys get in the police car with me and we'll go over to that lady's house, and you, Danny, isn't that what you said your name was? You can return it to the lady. Well, Dan was so down in the dumps, he didn't want to go for a ride in a police car. But Jim went, his eyes all sparkled, and he went, "We'd love to go with you in the police car." So Dan thought, might as well. So they got in the police car, and it didn't take them long to get to the little white cottage where the lady lived. And they went up and they knocked on the door, and the little lady invited them in, and Dan pulled the wallet out of his pocket and he held it out in his hand. And the lady said, "My wallet! You found my wallet! Oh, thank you, thank you." And then she proceeded to say, "My son had sent me $50 because I didn't know where I was going to get money to buy the coal for my furnace for this winter. And my son sent me $50 and I put it in my wallet. And then I went outside to rake leaves. And when I came back in, it was gone. I went back outside. I went through the yard. I went through the house. I went over all over the porch. I went down and dug around in the leaves, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And now you've brought it. Thank you so much." And then she looked kind of sad. She said, "I'd like to give you a reward, but I I don't have any money but the coal money." And then it looked like she had a bright idea. And she said, "Dan, that is your name, right, Dan?" He said, "Yes." She said, "Do you have a bicycle?" Dan couldn't believe it. He said, "No, but I really would like one and I need one." And the little lady, she said, "Well, come on." And she grabbed her sweater. She said, "You know, my grandson was here visiting several years ago, and he stayed with me, and he brought his bicycle, and he forgot it here, and it's been here ever since. I don't have any use for a bicycle, and now he's way too big for it." So she opened her coal shed, and there in the dust of the corner of the coal shed stood a bicycle. Jimmy was so excited, he ran right in and ran over to it, and he went, "Danny, Danny, it's in good shape. It's just dusty is all. I can help you. I have I have red paint. We can paint it red just like you want it. And I have new tires if it needs them. You and I can do it together. It'll be so much fun." Danny couldn't believe it. He had a bicycle. And when he had given the money to the little lady in the wallet, do you know what she'd said? "God has provided." And do you know what Danny had said because he was discouraged? He went, "God provides for some people, but for others, not always." Well, when he was standing in the coal shed and they were making their way out and they were pushing that bicycle, out loud so everybody could hear him, Danny said, "God does provide, always." You know, I want to tell you one thing before I end my story. I want you boys and girls to remember that God never provides something for us or answers a prayer where you have to break one of God's 10 rules, his 10 commandments to do it. Always remember that. But always remember to ask God, because if it's something that's good for us and something that God knows would be good, he'll find a way. It may not be the way we think. It may not be in the store window. And sometimes God says no, and sometimes He says wait. But He always answers one way or the other. Thank you, boys and girls. I'll see you next week. Be looking for our next story from Grandma Sheilla. Bye bye.